10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's Fluent Top 10s.
Yeah. Fluent Top 10s in the building. Special guest tonight. Chilltown Hoops from the Fluent and Chill podcast. The reason he's coming on is on Thursday, and I'll say this again in a minute. On Thursday, so today's Tuesday, on Thursday, we will have Scott Morrison. He is the assistant coach, the lead assistant for the Utah Jazz. He'll be joining us on Fluent and Chill. We're going to talk about all things Jazz, about his path to the NBA, what's going on with the Jazz this season, and some surprises about what's going on in his world and in the NBA. So we're going to get to that once Chill joins us. So what I'm going to start with is Coach Morrison himself actually sent me his top 10 list. And so we're going to go through his top 10 list of all-time Utah Jazz from an assistant coach of the Jazz, the assistant head coach of the Jazz. I'm going to give you my top 10. Chilltown Hoops is going to join and give his top 10. And then if we have time left, I'm going to invite everybody in to give your top 10 list. But there's more. But wait, there's more. We're going to have a top 10, top 15. I don't know if we're going to do a top. Yeah, we're going to do a top 10 of false NBA narratives. So false NBA narratives. It could be about a player. It could be about the game. It could be about anything. So what we're going to do is we're going to call out Chill and text him. Look, we're going to text him right now. Where you at? I hate when people are late. He's going to blame me that he didn't get my email with the link. But we know that's false. So while we wait for him, let's go through. So Coach Scott Morrison of the Utah Jazz gave me his top 10 list, all-time NBA, all-time Jazz, top 10. So let's go through his list. I think it's a pretty good list. I don't agree with it. My list is going to be very different. But here's his top 10. Coming in at number 10. This is crazy. It already starts crazy to me. That number 10, he has Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward as an all-time Utah Jazz. Let me clarify as well. We're talking New Orleans and Utah Jazz, because obviously the first few years the Jazz were in New Orleans before they moved to Utah. So we're including those years as well. So he's got Gordon Hayward coming in at number 10. That is incorrect. I do not agree with that one. Coming in at number 9. Oh, look at that. There's someone at the door.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
I could just, I just want you to know I'm going to have a whole page because we're going to do top 10 chillisms. And I'm going to have just give me one more day.
Oh
just
my God.
One more day. One more night. You need to copyright that because I have seen that so many times. Like, they should be paying you for that for real.
Oh my God.
I have a quote. I have a quote that's mine. Not just Now You're More Fluent. That one, but I have like an actual quote,
Right,
that people have used and in publications, and I don't know how they put it as anonymous, but it's mine. It's tagged in my Twitter or X account. I just don't know how to get credit for it. It's what is it? Emotion is the death of reason. That's mine. People use it, never get paid for it. How are you going to get paid for it? Just give me one more day. I don't even know. What is that? Where did that come from?
it was just something that I was thinking about. I was thinking about my grandmother and how she would tell me to just keep going, and how she would just say stuff that would just make sense. And that was off the cuff, Tone. I didn't write that down. I didn't come up with nothing in particular. That was just what it was right then and there. I just was like, all right. I just came up with it. That's all it was at that particular time.
You need to send that to Brendan Marshall.
Yeah,
because Brandon Marshall's having some mental health issues. It looks like again.
He wild right now. Yeah, he definitely is wild, Tone. 100%.
Everybody on the pivot just calling him out for doing them dirty when they were all on what was that show? I Am Athlete.
Yes, I Am Athlete. Yes.
I like that show, but now I like the pivot. Shout out to Ryan Clark. What's up? We're eventually going to get Ryan Clark on. Ryan Clark wants to do it in person. I'm like, we've only done it in person once. I don't know how we're going to get all of us together to do, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, Mr. Clark. So not a week, not a year, just one more day. Thanks, James B.
Oh my God.
So you know what we're doing today?
Yes, we're doing the top 10 Jazz players of all time.
Top 10 Jazz players of all time.
Yep. Top 10
I'm going to give you Coach Morrison's. So I was telling the people already. Coach Morrison's going to come on Thursday, lead assistant for the Utah Jazz. We're going to talk about all things Jazz and his journey to the NBA that went from Canada to Australia to Utah and a bunch of stops in between. And we're going to talk about hoops. Obviously, he's assistant coach. I know what his dream job is, by the way.
I'm
not going to tell you. And I'm not going to say I don't want him because I know he's watching because they're off tonight. Shut up. I'm not going to say it either because there's a synergy with him and I want everybody to be like oh wow once I bring it up. So hopefully that's what's going to happen. But he gave me his top 10, so I thought I'll read his top 10. We can critique it, and then you give yours, I'll give mine, and then if we have time, I'm going to invite the people in because I have a false narratives. I've got about 30 of them. About players and about just the NBA in general, and I'm just going to read them out and get everybody's opinion on them. I love false narratives as much as I love conspiracy. So we had only gotten to number 10 before you came on. Number 10, Gordon Hayward. He was high. No, he wasn't like. I know he was good.
Not really high, Tone. I mean, if you think about the players that played with the Jazz, like Mark Eaton, Mehmet Okur. Let's see. I'm thinking about the great Thurl Bailey. Like he was better than them.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know why I'm eating chips because this is the worst thing to eat in front of a mic, but I'm craving these chips. I'm really sorry. So what I'm going to do, I'll give you number 9. I'll mute and comment so I can crunch. Number 9, maybe this one's too high. Lauri Markkanen.
Lauri Markkanen is definitely too high at number 9. He just got on the crew last year. He is not an all-time great Jazz player. He can be at some point in his career, but he just got on the crew last year. Made the I think he made the All-Star team. He was most improved. He was either he was in that conversation or he won the who won most improved last year. Was it Lauri Markkanen?
No, I think he was on the All-Star team. I think it was his first.
He did make the All-Star team. Who won most improved last year?
I have no idea. You're the guy with the memory.
I'm sorry. I had to. I'm having a moment. But with that being said, Lauri Markkanen is not a top 10 Jazz all time. No, he is not. As a Jazz player, Tone, he wasn't better than Paul Millsap. He wasn't better than Derek Favors. He wasn't better than Andre Karolinko. He wasn't better than Mehmet Okur. I could keep going. It
was Lauri Markkanen.
It was Lauri Markkanen who was most improved, right?
He did win most improved last year.
He did. I thought he won most improved last year. So sure.
All right. So Lauri Markkanen. So listen, I'm with you. Like I really liked Markkanen. And I always tell people the story. I learned about Markkanen by mistake. I was in his rookie season. I was doing my NBA fantasy draft.
Yeah.
And it was like the last round. And I saw this rookie on the Bulls, and I was like, whatever. Like you just pick, they had him projected to be pretty good. I was like, all right. Didn't know who he was. In fact, I got people, Lauri, like, you drafted a girl? Well, like, did you get someone from WNBA? I'm like, nah, man. Like, I love Lauri Markkanen. He's a dude. He plays in the NBA. I said he's going to be, they say he's going to be okay. So the season goes on. And I have Giannis. Like I have a good squad. Like I win the fantasy league that year. I win it.
Right.
But my kind of surprise guy was Lauri Markkanen. And so as I saw him getting a lot of fantasy points, I'm like, who is this guy? So I started watching some Bulls games, started watching his game. I'm like, oh, he's nice. He's nice. So I was really surprised when he was like a throw-in to Cleveland.
He was.
Right. He was just like here, take him. And then he goes to Utah and boom, all of a sudden, like I feel it's weird that they've just kind of dismissed him. So, anyways, he's got him at number 9.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8. If I do that, do you know who it is?
Yes, Jeff Hornacek.
Jeff Hornacek.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what that's for?
For his kids.
For his kids. Every time he went to the free throw line, that was like, I think he did 1, 2, 3 for all his kids.
Mm-hmm. Saying hello to his kids. Absolutely.
Right. There's a lot of players. It's a good thing that they didn't do it. They'd be there for a long time doing one for everything.
I'm thinking, is Jeff? Well, his jersey is retired with the Jazz, right? So his jersey's retired with the Jazz. I think he played something like, I want to say like 6 or 7 years in Utah, Tone. If I'm not mistaken, I think he played like 6 or 7 years in Utah, and those Jazz teams that he was on. I mean, he was on those crews that was in the Western Conference Championship and in the NBA Finals. So they was in contention. And one of the best sharpshooters in the league. I don't know if he was a better Jazz than Jeff Malone, though. That's the thing I'm thinking about. I'm not sure that he was a better Jazz than Jeff Malone. But I think that he might have played for the Jazz longer than Jeff Malone. So I think that might be the edge.
Well, hey, he's got a guy that's been on here for 1 year, so I don't think that matters. Number 7. You did not want to go to the rim when he was there. I'm telling you. Mark Eaton. Mark Eaton could block shots.
I'm thinking about the rim protectors of that era. Jabbar, Olajuwon, Ewing. Because Ewing first showed up, he was already in the league. Ralph Sampson. You can make a legit argument. Mark Eaton was the best rim protector of that era. You can make a legit argument for that. I mean, he won the defensive player of the year. I think Manute Bol was one of the better rim protectors during that time too, Tone. But Mark Eaton, as a Utah Jazz, he anchored that defense. Him and Stockton were the guys who anchored that defense. And yeah, you could definitely. I mean, he's the all-time. I think he's the all-time shot block leader in Jazz history. I think he's in the top 3 all-time in rebounds. I'm cool with that. Yeah, I'm definitely cool with Mark Eaton being the top 10 all-time Jazz player. 100%.
Yeah, I like it too. And like I said, there's that. Remember that one? I want to say it was Mark Eaton, where like Jordan comes down the court and dunks it on Stockton, I think, and somebody in the crowd yells out to him, "Pick on someone your own size," and he goes back down the court, dunks on Eaton, and looks at the guy.
It wasn't Eaton. It was Mel Turpin.
Oh, it was Mel Turpin. Oh, and okay. And he says, "Is that big enough for you?" I like that. So Mark Eaton at number 7. Number 8. Number 8.
You mean number 6?
Number 6. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. Number 6. Yeah. Number 6. I love that he even writes in. He writes in next to him. This is why I like Coach, because like he's gonna be like, he's not gonna shy away from conversation because he writes next to this person's name. Check the defensive stats. That's what he writes next to him. AK-47. Andrei Kirilenko.
So at 6'9", Tone, I remember you and I had this conversation about Roderick Rhodes. Rod told me in 2002 he was actually working out with the Jazz. Then they were interested in signing him, and he said to me, "Yo, they got this dude from Russia. His name he looks like Drago from Rocco." That's what he said. That's what he told me. He's like, "Yo, he looked like remember the dude from Rocky, the Russian dude. That's what he looked like." And yo, he is a baller. His name is Andrei Kirilenko. I don't know how to say his last name, dub, but his name is Andrei something. He is a baller. And I started paying attention to Andrei Kirilenko. Andrei Kirilenko played, I think, 6 years with the Jazz, 6-7 years with the Jazz. And in the time that he played there, Tone, you can make the argument, with the exception of Mark Eaton, he might be the best defensive player they ever had in Utah.
Oh yeah. 100%. When you said he was 6'9", he must have had an incredible wing. Because I always thought he played like he was a 7-footer. He was just always swatting shots. He was long too, right? Pause.
Yes.
All right, so that's number 6. Number 5. I don't know how I feel about this one. This one might be up your alley. Number 5, he's got Daryl Griffith.
Yes, Daryl Griffin is definitely a top 5 Jazz all time. I think he played 6 or 7 years with the Jazz. Dr. Duncanstein. Dr. Duncanstein was also think Donovan Mitchell, except a little bit less of a scorer, but a ridiculous athlete. That's who Dr. Duncanstein was with Malone and Stockton.
That's a nickname that gets forgotten.
Crazy hops, could score with the best of them, ridiculous transition player. Yeah, he was awesome with the Jazz. 100% he was.
You know, next year Halloween, I'm going to be Dr. Duncanstein. I love it. All right. Dr. Duncanstein coming in at number 5. Number 4. Go watch some tape. Not you, but anyone who's listening on, the podcast or watching later or watching right now. Maravich. Pistol Pete Maravich coming in at number 4.
Tony, when they traded for Gail Goodrich, that was the plan with Pistol Pete and Gail Goodrich. They were supposed to be Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. They were supposed to be Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's what that was supposed to be. Only except it didn't work out that way because Gail Goodrich was old and he got hurt. So I think they only played like 49 games together. But Pistol Pete was a wizard. He was awesome with the New Orleans Jazz, made the All-Pro team a couple times. So, yeah, I could get with Pistol Pete. I'm not sure that Pistol Pete should be as high because he didn't really play for the Jazz that long. I mean, he played for the Jazz, but he didn't play for them. I think he played like 4 or 5 years with the Jazz. He didn't really play for them that long.
But there's only 2 guys, and we're going to get to them, I'm sure.
Right.
A lot of guys who played a long, like when you're looking at this list, it's not like, look, okay, I'm spoiled, but like when you look at the all-time Laker list, it's very different. When you look at the all-time Celtic list, there's some teams that like after like 5, it gets a little scary. Utah's is just one of those. I feel like they should have stayed in New Orleans. Okay, what would you rather have? Them move back to New Orleans? I know there's a team there. I just forget that for a minute. Or change their name to something more suitable for Utah. Because, like, let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard jazz music in Utah? Ever?
No. And I lived there for a couple of years.
4 years? Were you there 4 years?
2, 3. I played 2 years there. Yeah.
You were there for 3?
3 years I was there. And I played there 2 years. Sebastian, just so you know, Pistol Pete only played 5 years with the New Orleans Jazz. That's it. He didn't play 7.
All right.
He also played for Atlanta too.
Number 3. I like him a lot. We don't talk about this guy enough, but he could flat out score. Number 3, Adrian Dantley.
I'm good with Adrian Dantley being at number 3, 100%. I think he's the only leading scorer the Jazz ever had. The Jazz never had a guy who led the league in scoring. And Malone never led the league in scoring. And Malone was 28, 29 a game, and he never led the league in scoring. Adrian Dantley was a bucket getter. He averaged a bunch of points in Utah, 100%. Yeah, I'm cool with him. I'm not sure, Tone, that guys like, but I'll let you tell the rest of the list.
Okay. Well, there's only 2 more. There's only 2 left. And Coach Morrison, I got to tell you, we're going to talk to you on Thursday. I'm going to call you out. I'm going to call him out. Because I how can I put this nicely? You copped out. Because you put Ty. And he said, check out their games played. We're gonna make them pick one. Check out their games played stats. In addition to their usual stats, people talk about Karl Malone, John Stockton, Ty. I don't like that one bit.
Nah, Coach. You gotta pick one.
Pick one and
acknowledge me.
That's it. That's it in a nutshell, Coach. You gotta pick one.
Got to pick one. So we're going to call him out on Thursday. So come check out Fluent and Chill on Thursday, where we're going to be calling out the assistant coach, lead assistant for the Utah Jazz, Scott Morrison, on him copping out with an answer of Ty. So do you want to do your top 10 list next, and then I'll give you mine?
Mine is similar to this right here, except where you got Jeff Hornacek. I would have gone with Jeff Malone. Where you got let's see, it was somebody else that was like Paul Millsap. I had him on the list too. Guys like that. But other than that, everybody else that you had on the list, I had them on the list too.
You want to run it down? Just run it down 10 to 9, just in case someone wants to clip it.
Okay, so let's see here. What do I have? because I didn't write it down, Tone. I apologize.
Oh, you don't have to write things down.
I did not write it down. So what I'm going to do is I'll run it down for you. So what I had was, let's see, I had Gordon Hayward at 10. I had Mark Eaton at 9. I had Dan Williams at 8. I had Jeff Malone at 7. Hornacek at 6. Karolinko at 5. Not Adrian Dantley. I'm sorry. Let's see. Who else did I have? Who did I say I had at 5? Karolinko? No, move Karolinko up to 6. Move Rudy to 5. Rudy Gobert at 5.
Gobert 5, okay.
Yeah, put Rudy Gobert at 5. I actually put Karolinko at 5, put Rudy at 4. Adrian Dantley at 3, Stockton at 2, Malone at 1.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here's mine.
Yep.
Do you know who David the Dunking Dutchman Vanterpool is?
David Vanderpool. That name sounds really familiar. Yeah, I do. How
did he get the nickname the Dunking Dutchman? I thought that was Rick Schmitz.
That was Rick Schmitz. I forgot how he got that name.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I did forget how he got that name.
So here's my top 10. And then there is someone that, and you know how I feel about active players, so there's probably going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I have a. Oof. All right, let me just go through it. Number 10, Carlos Boozer. Carlos Boozer coming in at number 10. Number 9, Andre Karolinko.
Mm-hmm.
I like him a lot. Number 8, Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7, Jeff Hornacek.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, Mark Eaton.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, people forget how good he was, even though he drove coach. I'm going to draw a blank. Jerry Sloan drove him out of Utah, but Darren Williams,
yes, he did.
He was legit. So I got him at number 5. Number 4, Adrian Dantley.
4. Wow. Okay.
Number 3, you know why I like Dantley. Number 3, Pistol Pete Maravich.
Pistol Pete
could probably come in today's NBA, by the way, and still play solid.
100%. He'd be really good today.
Number 2. This is where I think we all differ. I have Karl Malone at number 2.
And Stockton at 1.
And I have Stockton at 1 for these reasons. 1, he was the main ball handler on that team.
Mm-hmm.
How the hell does Karl Malone have like a million more? Okay, not a million more. How does he have more turnovers than John Stockton?
Because the offense ran through Malone.
Second all time. I know the offense ran through him, but dude was catching it in the post from Stockton all the time. I don't like that. I don't like that he's second all time in turnovers. That bothers me for a guy who's not a perimeter player.
Mm-hmm.
Like 1 we know is LeBron, but he legit has the ball in his hand all the time.
Right.
And 5 is John Stockton, but John Stockton also has a million more assists. So It's just, I don't like that. Number 2 reason, I feel like they both benefited from each other 1,000,000%. But I'm almost like, I almost get a wide receiver quarterback feeling that even if it's 51-49, I think Malone benefited more from Stockton than Stockton Malone. And look, I'm not saying significantly more. I'm saying like this much more. If you can see my
right. It's like if you run in 100, it's like you ran it in the 9.78 and I ran it in the 9.77.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I feel like, okay, he didn't do it with anybody else, but I feel like there's other guys. Like if he had other power forwards, Stockton still would have been Stockton. I feel like Malone would have still been Malone, but not as, again, it's that hair of a difference.
Right.
Another point guard I don't think would have made him as much.
If he had Kevin Johnson, he probably wouldn't be Malone like that. He'd
still
be awesome. He'd still be awesome.
He'd still be awesome. Just a little bit worse.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is when we two things. Actually, there's two more things. Not that Stockton was super clutch, but Malone didn't deliver on Sundays. No, I'm just kidding. Although that's a great line from Scottie Pippen.
That is awesome.
We never, ever, ever, I don't think, ever talked about Malone's defense.
Which is crazy to me because
he was a good defender, but John Stockton was an all defensive defender.
So was Malone. Not only was Malone an all league defender, Tone, the years that
times as Stockton.
No, not as many times, but with him being an elite defender, the times that he made all defense, all the years he made all defense, Tone, he was first team. So he was never a second team all league defender. He was a first team all league defender. And the years that he missed, the years that he didn't make the all league defensive team, those years when it was like guys like Buck Williams, Malone was right there. So he was in the Bam Adebayo, like guys that was just missing making an all league defensive team. That's where Malone was during that time. So it wasn't like Malone was just an average defender and then all of a sudden he became this elite defender. No, he was always one of the best defenders in the game. It's just that, especially at that time at the power forward spot and at the big man spot,
it was a pretty loaded position.
Yes.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this though. If we were comparing two players from different teams that never played together, and I had one guy who was a great scorer, like all-time great scorer, who could rebound, who was a good defender, good to great defender at the power forward position, but also I look at their negatives. Never won a championship. All the turnovers that we said, second all time in turnovers. When he retired, he was first, right? When he retired, he was first all time in turnovers. So I'm comparing that guy to a guy that is a all time defensive, like makes all defensive team like all the time. Played 21 years, leads all time in assists, leads all team in steals all time. All time, he's number one.
Yeah,
right. A bunch of all-star games. So, and then the accolades are similar. Okay, you got MVP on Malone, nothing on Stockton. Most people are going to skew it a little bit to the guy that's leading two categories by a wide margin, by the way.
Right.
All time in steals and assists. So that's why again, I say, I'm not saying they're like this.
Right.
I'm like, you said 9.7 and I ran a 9.77. No, it's like 9.7, 9.71. Right? Like it's if you were a little bit faster with stopwatch, it might go the other way. That's all I'm saying. So I got Stockton one. I got Stockton one.
I think that they needed each other equally, but I just think that Malone, what he brought and how he and Stockton, you're gonna have a difficult time selling me that he ain't one of the 5 best point guards in NBA history. I just feel like what Malone did in revolutionizing the league, revolutionizing the 4 spot, where before Malone, the 4-man was the dirty work guy, Tone. That wasn't the dude you ran the offense through. That wasn't the guy who was the facilitator in your offense. And like you just talked about with turnovers, that's why he turned the basketball over as much as he did, because the offense ran through him. Stockton was the primary ball handler, very much like what's going on in Denver with Joker and Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is the primary ball handler, but the offense runs through Joker. Well, Stockton was the primary ball handler, but the offense ran through Malone. And they ran a lot of high pick and roll stuff too. It wasn't like they was just throwing the ball to Malone on the block and
100%.
No, they ran a lot of high pick and pop stuff, right? Where guys were running off Malone, kind of like what they do in Denver, but not to that extent, because Joker is just so much better in just about every aspect of the game. But with that being said, Malone did, and he had to grow into being a good passer. He had to grow into being a good facilitator and playmaker. He was not always that. And add that to the fact, Tone, that the offense changed. So I believe it was 88, Frank Layden stepped down. So Frank Layden steps down, and who am I thinking about? Jerry Sloan now takes over the offense, takes over as the head coach. In the middle of the season, like not in the middle, but right in the beginning of the season. I think they barely 20 games into the season. Now they become more of a defensive-oriented team, as opposed to when Frank Layden was there. Tone, they were this. They were getting up and down the floor. They were a fast-paced team. So, you know, I can understand Malone's turnovers and how he turned the basketball over as much as he did.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't understand. I'm just saying when I'm trying to pick between the two, like I said, by a very thin margin, I've got Stockton affecting Malone a little bit more than Malone. Again, I'm picking the quarterback over the wide receiver.
Well, let me ask you this, Tone.
Not a great analogy, but that's what I'm going.
The biggest issue that I have is when I hear people saying stuff about Stockton that, well, he had Malone. Like, Malone was the only guy he was passing to. He wasn't just getting the ball to Malone.
Yeah, no.
You don't rack up 15,000 assists just getting the ball to one guy. That's not the way that works. No, there was plenty of other guys who were involved in the offense that he was getting involved in the offense. And on top of that, Stockton was a distribution machine. We talk about a dude, Tone, as a rookie, averaging 5 assists coming off the bench.
Do you know how many people, like today, because I hear them all, Stockton's overrated, that today he couldn't do this, he couldn't do that. They look back and I've watched the tape. Do you know how many of your favorite NBA players came into the league when Stockton was playing and said, that was my welcome to the NBA moment? Because when I watched him play, I was like, oh yeah, it's the same thing they're saying about him now. He's too slow, he's short, he's white, he's da-da-da. And he's like, and then he put a on me and and I was like, damn, that dude's strong. And he knocked me over. And then he didn't make a move yet. Somehow he got by me. And then he made this pass. And I was like, how the hell did he make that pass? Or he hit this shot. Those you want to listen to NBA players? Listen to NBA players that played him and said, don't be fooled by the tape. Don't be fooled by the tape, because the tape can be. I'm not saying eye test isn't important. It is.
Very much so it is.
Don't be fooled sometimes, because it's those little things that you don't realize. It's that pick someone sets. It's that, bothering you when you're trying to get your shot off that doesn't look like it's the reason why you missed, but it was the reason why you missed. And then to the Malone. Oh, sorry, go ahead. And then because I want to go Malone on for a minute.
Baron Davis said Stockton had him thinking, yo, am I sorry? Can I play? Like, what's going on with my game? Am I good? This is how good Stockton was. A guy like Baron Davis, who was an all-star, he had him thinking, do I suck? What's going on with me? Like, this is how good this guy is.
If I thought he was sorry, I'm in trouble with these other dudes, right?
Right.
He's great, and I think people misunderstand that.
Right.
So I mentioned one of the reasons was I think if Malone had gone somewhere else or had a different point guard, he wouldn't have been quite as. So let me ask you this: what year do you remember what year Malone was drafted?
85.
Do you know where he got drafted? What position? Like what spot?
13.
Do you know who went 11 to the Chicago Bulls?
I want to say Kent. No, it wasn't. Who went 11 to the Chicago Bulls?
You have the first letter of his first name, right? It's kind of like Kent. It's Keith. Keith Lee. Keith Lee went to, yes, he went 13th. How ironic. We're staying away from that conversation on purpose. But Keith Lee went 11 to the Bulls in 1986.
Right.
So
85,
excuse me. So flip that. The Bulls take Malone. And now they got Jordan and Malone. Malone's still Malone, but is he still Malone? Because not playing with Jordan. He's not. No, he's not getting as many shots. And listen, we know Jordan can pass. We know Jordan had a lot of good assist games and series and that type of thing. But the offense would have been, hey, I'm still the guy. And it's, hey, maybe he's Malone's size might be really good to screen. Like Jordan coming off a Malone screen, that make his work a lot easier too. But what I'm saying is Malone would still be Malone. He'd still be a great power forward.
Right.
I don't think he's the Malone that we see with Stockton. So that was my point there. We have a couple of super chats, so I want to get to that, and then we're going to jump into the false narratives. Here, I'll throw this link in the chat. If anyone has a Utah Jazz top 10 or a ridiculous false narrative, be it for a player or for an NBA team, Angie Carr, I don't know that I know this, so maybe you can fill me in if you know. Thoughts on Braun's comments about the Heat?
He said that his career would, if he never played for the Miami Heat, his career would still be. It really wouldn't be that much different if he still played. Yeah, if he played somewhere else, if he never went to the Miami Heat, which I completely and utterly disagree with. I don't think that that's true at all. 100%.
So I want to be clear because I don't know this. He said that if I never went to the Heat. Now, and I went somewhere else, or if I stayed in Cleveland.
No, he just said if he never went to the Miami Heat, his career would have basically he still would have been that guy. When in reality, I completely disagree with that because I don't think he would have ever won in Cleveland. I don't think he would have ever won there. I think he would have just been a guy who put up amazing stats, and I don't think it would have really amounted to anything, Tone. I think that they would have not been empty, but I feel like Cleveland wasn't serious about winning. So he would have just been a guy who was getting to the second round, like what Charles Barkley was in
Philadelphia.
Where he was just getting to the playoffs and making postseason runs, but getting bounced in the second round, getting bounced in the East Finals, maybe making another finals appearance. But other than that, I don't think he would have ever won there. We would have never had that conversation about him. No.
So let me address this one. When Kyrie got there, Kyrie never would have got there. Kyrie was a first overall pick, and the reason they got that pick was because he left to Miami and they tanked and got, I think they got two or three first overall picks. They got three, right?
Three in 4 years.
3 and 4 years,
and one of them was the fourth one was a top 5 pick. That's how they got Tristan Thompson,
and they got a top 5 pick. So and here's why I think if he stays, his career is not the same, because if he stays, him leaving and they pick Kyrie, so that was a good pick. Don't get me wrong, but then they pick Anthony Bennett and then Andrew Wiggins, who they trade for Kevin Love. So it's not like they were drafting. And then was Tristan Thompson was the 5th overall pick? Yeah,
4th, I think.
4th. They had 3 1s and a 4 and got. And no offense to these guys, they got Tristan Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Anthony Bennett, and Kyrie. Like that, you could do. Now maybe it was the drafts, but you could do a lot better than those 4 guys. But that being said, if he's still there, they're still competitive. They're not getting the number 1. They're getting the 17th, the 25th pick in the draft. Right. They're not getting, and maybe that works out better for them. I don't know, but
which means no Irv. Which means no Andrew Wiggins, which means no Kevin Love. None of that's going on.
None of that's going on. And it's going to be a constant, like what they were doing. Old Shaq, old Ben Wallace,
just stuff like that. That's what would have been going on. Yep. Exactly.
Now, maybe I'll give him this. I'll say maybe he gets to a point where, a Bosch, a Wade, one of his friends says, "Okay, hey, I'm coming to Cleveland."
No, Tone, no.
You don't
Absolutely
think?
No. He tried. We couldn't get Amari Stoudemire to come to Cleveland. That wouldn't happen. In fact, when Chris Bosh during 2010, Chris Bosh wouldn't come to Cleveland. That was another reason why he left, because he wouldn't come to Cleveland. So there's no way that 3 years later in 2013, with James still there in year 11 and they're in the semifinals, is he getting Carlos Boozer or somebody like that to come to Cleveland? It's not happening. No.
So yeah, I agree. I don't think it. So here's why I asked the first question I asked.
Yeah.
If he said, if I don't go to Miami, my career is the same, and I take it as because I'm going to go somewhere else, I'm with him, right? Like there's other like he could have gone to LeBronto. That was a good team that built around him there. He could have gone to the Warriors. He could have gone to OKC. Like there's other places he could have gone and won. It didn't have to be Miami. Like, in fact, I don't even think Miami was the right fit. When I look at Wade's game and Bosch's game, that's not actually ideal. They found a way to do it 2 out of 4 years, but that's not actually ideal players around LeBron, right? Like we agree. I think we agree on that. I think
we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So there's other better fits that would have fitted. If he stays in Cleveland, and I've said this to you, I've said this many times, it's less about him. And it's more about Cleveland and what they're going to put around him. That I agree with you. That I don't think
his game is not in question.
Maybe he gets one, maybe he gets one.
Maybe
but that's not him. That's. But I'm telling you that the conversation would be very different.
And nobody is going to sell me that if he stays in Cleveland and gets one NBA championship, that's equivalent to the 4. And now we're still having him in the GOAT conversation.
No, absolutely. And let me tell you, if he's anything of a competitor like I think he is, you go 10, 11 years without winning and having to carry a franchise, your hometown franchise. I don't think you played 21 years.
No, he definitely doesn't play that long.
You and you're just like enough, and you're right. Like again, there's injury. I'm not assuming any injuries or anything. I'm just saying I think you're just like okay, I can only take so much losing, and that's why I think he leaves either way. I think he leaves either way. Okay,
he had to go, Tone. It was imperative. You know,
I don't think anyone the way that he left. But yes, I agree. He's a free agent. Go. Yeah, get out of here. Go. Mm-hmm. I don't blame him for that at all. Angie with another one. Do I have that?
Another one.
I do.
Mm-hmm. Another one.
What up, DJ Khaled? Does Bron believe he'd make it out of the East on the Cavs in the early 2000s? Because the Bulls were on his chill. How the 49ers let Burrow smoke him? Oh, double whammy.
Angie, why are you talking about Joe Burrow like he's just good? Like what he did against the 49ers, he reminded me. I kind of forgot how good he was. If I'm not mistaken, I think over these last 4 games, Tone, they've won their last 4 straight, by the way, since he's been healthy. Cincinnati has won their last.
Cincinnati, I keep telling people, he was not healthy.
Right.
He is healthy now. That is a different team when he is healthy.
He's healthy. That's number one. I think, Tone, in these last 4 games, the last 4 games that they've won, I think he's got a completion percentage of like 75% over these last 4 games, and he's averaging almost 300 yards a game. Almost 300 yards a game on average these last 4 straight. So what he did against the 49ers, don't get me wrong, you ain't beating nobody when the quarterback completes almost 90% of his passes. That's not happening. Okay, you're not beating nobody when the quarterback is completing over 90% of his passes. But what he did, Tone, was he reminded me, because I forgot how good he was. I was like, damn, I forgot Joe Burrow was that good because I hadn't seen him in a while. But now that I've seen him standing in the pocket, making the throws that he was throwing, making Jamar Chase look like the all-pro receiver that Jamar Chase actually is, and making this team look like we forget that Cincinnati was just in the bowl game 2 years ago. It's not like Cincinnati is an up-and-coming team. They won a bowl game 2 years ago. So it's not like I don't know, Baker Mayfield went off on us. No, that's not what happened. No.
Who's that?
Butter, I'm sorry.
We do not care.
All right, here we go. We took a little survey on some social media platforms, and here are some of the most false narratives that people sent it. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to go through the list. Stop anytime you want. Comment on any of them if you wish. If not, I'll move on to the next one. Larry OB's championships, rings are the only measure of greatness.
No. Mm-mm.
Bill Russell, the GOAT.
So much goes into winning, man. So much goes into winning.
Oscar Robertson's triple doubles were easier because of the era he played in.
No, that's not true neither. That is so not true.
My number 2 Jazz of all time, Karl Malone, is underrated. Is he underrated? I am at number 2 in the Jazz, so maybe you're gonna say he's underrated. But where do most people have him? Top 20?
I got him top 20. You
have him top 15?
No, I don't. I got him top 20. The winning is what if he would have won, Tone. He would have
won what? Just one? Like if he would won,
clearly he'd be a top 10 player, no questions asked.
Top 10?
Yes, no questions asked. He'd be top 10. No doubt about it. He'd be a top 10 player.
Give me a player in your top 10 that has one.
Who's got one? Chamberlain's got 2. So
2.
Yeah, Chamberlain has 2. No, he would have needed more than 1 to be in the top 10, Tone. He would have. I'll take that back. He would have needed more than 1. I take that back. He would have needed more than 1. Yeah. Yeah. Let's get back. 1 wasn't enough. Yeah, he definitely would have needed more than 1.
2. Now 2. You might be having a conversation.
He's definitely a top 15 player if he has only 1.
Yeah, I'm sure it moves him up.
He goes ahead of Jerry West, and he goes ahead of Jerry West, and he goes ahead of Oscar Robertson. And he goes ahead of Moses too.
I don't know about Jerry West. I don't know about that.
Yes.
One. I don't know about that one. Kobe. Kobe was the most skilled player ever.
I don't think that's a false narrative. I think you can make an argument for Kobe being the most skilled player ever. 100%, you can make an argument for him, because I'm not thinking of Kobe Bryant just being skilled as a scorer. I'm thinking Bryant on both ends of the floor. I'm thinking Bryant as a defensive player, and I'm thinking about him as an offensive player, because that's what I think about when I think about the most skilled, Tone. I don't just think about a guy that's super nice with the pill that could just put the ball in the basket. No, I don't think about that.
That has become the narrative, though. Maybe that's
it's so goofy. It's so
handle.
Yeah. Just because you're super nice with the pill, you're the most skilled. No, you're not. Passing is a skill.
Williams. White chocolate just moved up the list. It's handles.
Right. Passing is a skill. Scoring is a skill. Defense is a skill. Rebounding is a skill. All of this all of this stuff, these are skills. Being able to put the ball in the basket and being nice with the pill does not make you the most skilled. No, that doesn't work.
Bill Russell only won because of his teammates.
And guess what? Everybody only wins because of their teammates. Jordan won only because of his teammates. James won only because of his teammates. We can go down the whole list. Tim Duncan won.
Well, perfect segue into the next one. Hakeem Olajuwon had no help.
That is not true. That is not true at all. That's so not true. Number one, that unit that he was on in 1994, 93, 94, they had been together for a long time with Kenny Smith and Vernon Maxwell and Mario Elie and Matt Bullard and Otis. Him and Otis Thorpe was together for 7 years. 7 years him and Otis Thorpe was together. Him, Vernon Maxwell, Kenny Smith, Matt Bullard. Let's see. Him, Kenny Smith, Matt. Those guys were together 4 years. In addition to him being with
Vernon Maxwell?
Yep, Vernon Maxwell, Kenny Smith, Mario Elie. But in addition to them dudes,
Otis Thorpe was there, I think, one of the years, right?
Otis Thorpe was there in 94.
And then he goes and Drexler comes in.
Yeah, he comes in. He comes in with the Drexler trade. But that crew, we constantly discount Robert Horry. That was his second year in the league when he got Robert Horry. But we constantly discount, Tone, what continuity means. Like you just throwing rosters together and think that that's enough. No, that Rockets team was together for a long time, and they were damn good. So remember, the idea, would anybody be saying anything if we had a team today, Tone, that started the season, all right, we in the 23-24 season, Tone, and we had a team open up the season and they go 22-1 to start the season. How we talking about them?
Oh, they stink.
That was the Rockets. They won their first 16 guys. I think they went 16-0 to start the season.
Oh man. No, and that's why I always tell people we use the word team and we forget what the word team means because we're so in love with the star, the name that I know, the household name, right? And it's like, no, there's a bunch of dudes that casuals don't know, but they play their role. Yeah. And the pieces sometimes are stronger than the individuals.
Yeah.
And is Kenny Smith an all-star, all-NBA talent? No. But Kenny Smith next to Vernon Maxwell, next to Otis Thorpe, next to Hakeem Olajuwon,
I'm good.
It becomes it's one of those, like each one of these fingers you can break, but when I make a fist, right? Like that's the team concept that we're forgetting.
Yep.
So I'm going to go through some of the team ones. Speaking of that. No, well, not the individual player ones. Every great player needs a ring to be considered great.
No, that's not true.
Players today are soft. Beautiful.
You can make that argument, sure. I'm with that.
Your players today are soft. That might be one of the ones we need to add.
I don't think that's a false narrative.
We need to add that one to our debate.
And that's not some old head logic neither. It's not. That's not some old head. That's not some old head logic. It's not.
Okay. In the chat, are today's players soft? Are today's players soft? Older players are better leaders.
Yes.
Kobe is better than LeBron.
Kobe. No.
LeBron James.
No.
I don't even think that. I love Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
Analytics have ruined the game.
It has thrown a monkey wrench in its hole. Yes, it has.
It has changed the way we view things. I don't know that, but no, okay. Depends on what you think. There are certain aspects that it has changed, right? Like the analytics say, shoot a 3 or get a dunk, and that has changed the way we play, right? I showed you that graphic of like all the mid range, 10 years, or I think it was 20 years ago,
right?
And then now it's just like 3, and then in the restricted zone, like very little outside of it. Defense, this one's interesting. Defense does not win championships.
Yes, it does. It always has. You have to play defense in order to win. 100% you do. There's an old saying, offense sells game tickets, defense sells parade tickets. So
is that true in football? In basketball as it is in football?
I think football is a little bit different because you need more of your guys in football than you do in basketball. In basketball, if you got an elite rim protector, if you have a bad perimeter defense, your rim protector can make up for that. In football, even if you got an elite pass rusher, Tone, if your secondary is whack, that could get picked apart.
The West is always stronger than the East.
No, it is not. That is not true. The East in the 80s was a nightmare. Last year in particular, the East in the 80s and in the 90s was a nightmare. Last season in particular, 3 of the best 4 records in the NBA were from the Eastern Conference. So that's just not true. The West has not always been better.
When there's years where everybody in the West that makes the playoffs won 50 games.
Yeah.
People remember stuff like that.
Of course.
Small ball can't win championships.
I don't think so, Tim.
Well, the Warriors just dispelled that.
Got wrong, right?
Yeah, the Warriors just shut that down.
The NBA is rigged.
No, it's not. We got guys who just don't deliver when they're supposed to deliver. That has nothing to do with the league being rigged. It just doesn't.
Super teams ruin the NBA.
I think they ruined the logic of building a championship team. I think that screwed it up. I will tell you that, Tom, 100%.
The 90s NBA was tougher.
Tougher, yes, it was.
Tougher than what?
I think it was tougher than
the 70s? Tougher than now?
I think definitely tougher than now. When I say tougher, Tone, I don't just mean from a competition standpoint. I think it was tougher from just a player standpoint in terms of what you had to endure. During the 80s, during the 90s, that was all these guys had. Your reputation, Tone, was your game. Your reputation today is not your game. Your reputation is a number of other things, social media, clothing, and all of that stuff. Your game is a byproduct of that stuff. In the 90s, in the 80s and the 90s, and even in the 2000s, there was not nearly as much notoriety in terms of social media. So you got noticed by your game and your game alone. Meanwhile, I got dudes like Kai Jones with pink hair telling everybody he's the best player on the Charlotte Hornets.
I'll say this. I agree that the 90s was tougher, but I believe it was tougher because of the style of play that they wanted to play. Mm-hmm. So they incorporated systems and players that played that way. And it bothers me when there was no skilled players, but there was. The difference was that instead of taking a skinny power forward who could dribble and shoot, because yes, they did exist. They took, and no disrespect, they took Anthony Mason. Right, they wanted Charles Oakley on their team. They wanted a guy who could get in there, do the, like you say, the dirty work and bang, because that's the type of style that they were playing. So they picked the players globally. They still had the pick of the litter from globally. They just picked those players because that's the style of play that they did. Load. Did I say this already? No. Load management equals laziness.
I think you can make an argument that endorses it, Tom. It does. Don't get me wrong. You as an employee, you do deserve days off, but why aren't you working when you're available to work? What's the problem? Ain't nobody saying that you got to work every day, all day. I ain't saying that. But when the days you're supposed to work, why aren't you working?
But people get days off. They get sick days. They get
absolutely.
Health days now they give you.
See, here we go with that right there, Tom, with the mental health days and see stuff like that. It becomes goofy.
Sometimes it's the weekend, and you just got to realize
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
It is.
Tim Duncan was boring.
So
So you agree that he was boring?
So, Tone, one of my biggest regrets was early on in Tim Duncan's career. I'm watching him, and Tone, I'm an 85-year-old grandfather watching Tim Duncan because I'm falling asleep. And then I'll see on SportsCenter the next day that he went 27, 14, and like 3 blocks. And I'm like, Goofy, you missing the show. Wake up. Start paying attention to this dude. And I started paying attention to him, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy is awesome.
Well, I believe Tim Duncan is the GOAT.
That's not ridiculous. That's not ridiculous to say that.
Here's the thing, Tone, and I think that Bill Simmons said it best, because I put Tim Duncan in the same category with John Stockton. The way he described John Stockton is the best way to describe Tim Duncan. John Stockton is like missionary sex, but it's the best missionary sex you've ever had. I'm like, that's perfect, because that's the fact. You ain't gonna get blown away by, but it's the best you ever had. I'm like, that's the perfect way of explaining that. It's vanilla, but it's the best you've ever had.
No, we're moving on. Magic Johnson was only a point guard.
So,
is that a false narrative?
No,
because I hear he played every position.
No, he played the lead guard, and that was it.
Because he also he started his career. He played the 2 next to Norm Nixon. He was listed in NBA as a shooting guard.
Him and Norm were fighting for the ball. Magic was a lead guard, and him and Norm, it was basically you get the ball, you go. I get the ball, I go.
And I know he was supposed to be a power forward,
which that was never going to happen.
That was a lot of like people don't realize if he went to a different team, because West. And I want to say initially McKinney, Jack McKinney, I think, wanted him to be the power forward that banged under and got rebounds to take some pressure off of Kareem, because Kareem was getting older. He was like in his early 30s, but for those days, 30s was getting older. And that's what they wanted him to do. Could you imagine if they tried to get him to play in just a power forward?
I think the way his game was, Tone, they would have had to given him the ball. I don't just mean with the Lakers. If he was in Utah,
he just would have got it and just
they would have seen how he handled it. They would have seen how he played in transition, and somebody would have eventually said, "We got to get this dude the ball. We have to."
Or he would have been passing from the high post.
That's would have been it, right? And we're like, "Yo, we got to get this dude the ball. We have to." Somebody would have seen it.
All right, your guy, Shaquille O'Neal was unstoppable.
That is not a false narrative.
Is it? Isn't it?
No, that's not a false narrative.
What if you put him on the line?
Even if you put the difference is that he actually didn't make free throws when it was necessary. He didn't make free throws all the time, but he did make them when they were necessary.
Not when you guys were shooting at night. I'm talking about during the game.
No, I'm not talking about when we shoot at night either.
Please tell that really quick. We only have 1 minute left. Could you say it really fast?
Shaq and I, during the 2006 NBA Finals, we were in Dallas, and Shaq knocks on my door at the hotel. He wants to go shoot some free throws. We go to SMU. We're shooting free throws, 100 free throws in increments of 10, and he's going 7 for 10 from the free throw line, 8, 9, 8 for 10, 9 for 10. He's doing all of this stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, they're going to destroy Dallas tomorrow. This dude's on the free throw line. The next night, Dallas against Dallas in game 1, he goes 1 for 9 from the stripe. He's one dribble shot, 3 dribble shot. I'm thinking we didn't go over any of this last night. What the hell is this? What is this? And
we have 30 seconds left. Shaq let us down. Do you feel the Yankees underperforming with all the players they bought through the years? Should a large market conform cause smaller markets can compete financially. Yankees prove it don't matter.
No. Well, first of all, I am not a Yankee apologist. I can't stand the Yankees personally, to be honest with you. But they got robbed. Houston cheated. The Yankees should have been in the World Series. And
I think the Astros got caught cheating. They shouldn't be allowed to be in the World Series.
Right.
They need to ban it for like 5 10 years.
Right. The Yankees should have a World Series banner. And I'm not a Yankee apologist, but they got jerked.
I'm
100%
with you.
they did.
And yeah, baseball just needs a salary cap like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, fellas? Start, bench, cut. Healthy Bernard King, James Worthy, Vince Carter, and KD. Not careers, just as ballers.
Start KD. Bench James Worthy. Bench Bernard King, cut Vince.
I'm going to go start James Worthy, bench Bernard King, bench Vince Carter, and cut that bum Kevin Durant. This is Fluent Top 10s. Now you're more fluent.
10, 9, 8, 7. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's